Thank you. Proclamation tonight from the office of the mayor. Whereas Harriet Tubman was born into slavery as Araminta Ross in Bucktown near Cambridge, Maryland in 1822. And whereas Harriet escaped from slavery in 1849 to eventually settle in Philadelphia, where she was introduced to William Still, the station master of the Underground Railroad, and began her mission as one of their conductors. And whereas Harriet Tubman became known as the Moses of her people after making many trips leading several slaves to freedom in Canada along the Underground Railroad. And whereas following her escape from slavery, she joined with the Union Army and served as a nurse, scout, cook, and spy in the Civil War. And whereas following the war, she met Secretary William H. Seward and his wife Frances here in Auburn, through whom she contracted 7 acres of land on South Street to build a home for herself and other family members. And whereas in 1896, she purchased an additional 25 adjoining acres to her home, including a frame house that would become known as her home for the aged, to expand her charitable work providing for poor, sick, and elderly formerly enslaved people. And whereas over the 50 years that she lived in Auburn, she took everything she earned and gave it back to service and others, and she fought for racial and gender equality with civil rights and suffrage activism. And whereas on the 10th day of March 1913, Harriet Tubman departed for eternal life and was laid to rest with full military honors at Fort Hill Cemetery here in Auburn. And whereas today her home and property in Auburn are registered as National Historic Landmarks. And whereas in 1998 this site was designated as part of the National Park Service's National Underground Railroad Network to Freedom. And whereas on December 19, 2014, President Barack Obama signed the National Defense Authorization Act, which included creating the Harriet Tubman National Historical Park, which will protect in perpetuity sites associated with Tubman in Cambridge, Maryland, and in Auburn, New York. And whereas on January 10, 2017, the United States Interior Secretary signed the establishment of the Harriet Tubman National Historical Park, officially making the Auburn site the 414th unit of the National Park Service. And whereas in 2022, following years of research and planning, the National Park Service broke ground on the rehabilitation project of the restoration of the Thompson Memorial African Methodist Episcopal Zion Church located on Parker Street. And this summer, the site will open as part of the National Historical Park. And whereas Harriet Ross Tubman is an inspiration to many people, as her life's work fighting for freedom and equality makes her one of our nation's greatest historical figures, and it is therefore fitting that people everywhere pay tribute to this significant American champion of freedom. Now therefore be it resolved that Mayor Genatino, and the members, on behalf of the members of the City Council and citizens of Auburn, does proclaim the 10th day of March 2024 as Harriet Tubman Day in the city of Auburn.
Thank you. With us this evening to accept the proclamation are descendants of Harriet Tubman, Ms. Pauline Copes Johnson and Ms. Judith Bryant, if you'd meet me at the podium.
I accept this proclamation in the name of Harriet Tubman, who helped change the outcome of these United States. Thank you.
Thank you. Second.